Day two of fall camp started a little earlier this year. The last time that the new rules have created earlier start, and so I think this is the first time I've had a football practice in July since we played in the Hall of Fame game with the Carolina Panthers and had to start early. So it's everybody wants football season to come. They're making it come earlier. So we're pretty fired up about the start of it. Obviously, when you're a coach, this is a fun time, a challenging time. We have the nucleus of good leadership that will help us in a lot of ways. The work ethic has continued to carried on from last season to spring practice and to the fall camp, but we're still in a process to where we have the three groups. We have the guys that's been there and done that. They know the expectations, they understand the expectations, and they help us as coaches lead the other players to those expectations. Then we have the group that they know the expectations, but when they get confused on a football play, they don't go to the next play quite yet. They kind of go into a shell, and so they forget about the expectations, and so we have to make sure they understand. And then you got the young guys. They just don't know, but we got a group of young guys that do understand this, that there's one football out there and we're going to run to it. And so we're in shorts right now, so the physical part will come a little bit tomorrow when we're in shells. And then when we get pads on, then it becomes real football or real defensive football anyway. So we're pretty excited about that. We feel like that, and you guys know the personnel, but we feel like that the defensive line with the people that we have there returning, that is a good base nucleus. The younger guys are starting to step up. I mean, you can ask questions about those, but guys, it's the time where we've got to make sure that the Nick Coes and the next man up is ready to step up. Those guys, Andrew Williams, next man up, and so and they've done that. They've done that in a good way. Paul James, same in that group. In the linebacker group is kind of unique in that. That linebacker group, we were sitting here last year and kind of scratching our head. They're all back. They all made it through last season, played good, solid football and got better each week. They're guys that buy into the expectations. They give us what they've got, and we've added a young group with them. And I will say this, that young group that we've got, they're talented football players. They're energetic. They're smart guys. They've really bought into the expectations of Auburn defense. And they're giving us everything they got. Now, do they make mistakes? Yes, but that's why we practice. In the back end, I think everybody knows the depth, and the corner depth has never been in question when we've got them all healthy. And at this point in time, we have them all healthy at corner. I think the safety with Steven and Trey moving back, who that backup set of safeties are is also ties into the star position. So we're kind of experimenting with some different looks in that. Daniel Thomas, Javaris Davis, and then Denson. And so we're kind of rolling that around. Daniel's also at safety. Those other two guys are also at corner. At some point in time, we got to pick a lane, and we will do that relatively soon. But the biggest thing is you got to understand, everybody says, well, what are you doing to build on last year? Coaches are notorious for saying this. I don't know how to tell you any truer than it is. Last year was last year. It has very, very little to do with this year in terms of the process. Now, experience, yes. You don't have to cover things that they've seen before very much because they got it. So from the intellectual part, there is some carryover, but from the team chemistry part, the building the nucleus of a sound group and those expectations in which they're relentless in the pursuit of, that's yearly. And so we're in the process of doing that. We got a long way to go, but we don't play tomorrow. With that, I'll take questions.
Jeff Holland was a guy that last year saw plenty of time on third down. Now he's got to step in and be the full-time guy with Carl gone. Do you think he's ready for that, and to possibly want to be one of those guys that really leads that group up front for you?
I think this right here. I think Jeff exemplified in spring practice that he is headed in that direction at a high rate. I think he came back to fall camp with a good summer work. You can see that. It shows up. I think he understands what the expectations are, and he knows how to get that done. But don't make any mistake about it now. For us to sit there and tell you there's a starting lineup, there's not a starting lineup. We're going to create stress, and we're going to create some competitiveness so that they have to react to it. And so we're going to challenge people, move guys around, move guys in front of people based on the day before's practice. Not what you did last year, not what you did in the spring, what you did the day before. If you're playing to the expectations, Jeff has answered that to this point, but it's going to make him a better player because of it, because we're going to create competitiveness there. That'll help us depth-wise. It'll help us in the guys that are, I guess if starters are relevant anymore, I'm not sure that they are. You know, you play the first play and then don't play the next, you don't play the second half, then what does that mean?
Kevin, when you have a player like Jason that is going from one side of the ball to the other, is there a bullet point checklist stuff that you have to do, maybe before you guys get into shells and pads, that he has to understand?
Yeah. There's bullet points. There's rubber band points. There's paper clip points. There's a lot of points. There's a lot of Post-it notes in his playbook. But he's a smart guy. He's not. He's real excited about doing it. Obviously, he's athletic. He can run. He's just embraced it. He's having fun, and so he looks like he's been there for a little bit. He really does. He's done a good job of studying off the field.
Kevin, could you just talk about Trey Williams and kind of his progress since you've been here, what he means to the defense?
Well, Trey is a very serious guy. He's probably one of the most serious guys that we have. I tell him he's close to having Alabama retirement. He's been here so long. He's a man. And he's very serious about the game. He's very mature in the way he responds to things. That shows up in leadership. He's very calm. And he has the ability to play the next play and not be caught reflecting on what just happened and let it affect his emotion or his thought process. He can move on to the next play very rapidly. He affects others around him because of that. So he's valuable. Yeah.
Season, you have a lot to begin with. Beyond making more aggressive plays, how do you coach guys up to do that more, to create more interceptions without being overly aggressive?
Well, I think it's more of this in it that it's turnovers as a whole. If you look at what we did, run average, it was pretty close to striking distance with the goal. Average yards per pass attempt, I think that was, whatever, 11th in the country. There was what I'm saying is we established some criteria and we got close to a lot of them and met a lot of them last year. But the one that is glaring, that is way off base is takeaways. And, we've got to generate more takeaways. I don't know how you emphasize it a lot more than we did last year, but we've created more ways to do it. And so it's in their face all the time about takeaways. Now, in terms of pass, interceptions, a lot of those are the effectiveness of you got to affect the quarterback. You got to affect the quarterback because if he's not affected and he can set his feet, and the receivers in this league, they're going to put the ball where they need to put it. And most of those, even if they're not caught, they're not interceptable. And so, we work it, we emphasize it. We've had some good plays in the first 2 days that were good takeaways in the interception category. But we just keep harping on it.
Is that the key to everything for you when it comes to the takeaways, or what other kind of drills do you utilize in practice?
Well, we got a turnover circuit we use in practice where we go through interceptions, fumble recoveries, stripping balls out, stripping it out of the quarterback, stripping it out of the ball carrier. All those things is a circuit we go through, and we do that pretty extensively. And then we've created an award for turnover of the day, and so they're pretty fired up about that. It's legal. I don't get it. You know. All right, and I said an award. I didn't say a reward. All right, yes, it's you know, and so you know they like that. We're making a big deal out of that, and they like it. So it's you know they're fighting for that. We didn't have that last year, and then we're in practice. If we do have conditioning after practice, you know you can get some conditioning points if you get so many turnovers. So we're working it.
Was that a growth thing, or is that something you've done in the past and just decided to bring in this year?
Some of it's stuff that it was collectively as a staff. We sat around and talked about it. Some of the things we'd done in the past. Some of them we hadn't. Other guys had done. Some of them we stole from other people. You know.
Yeah, Dontavius, the numbers may not show it, but talk about the importance of him on that defensive line and what he brings.
Yeah, well, you know, as you well know, you hear this in coaching a lot, but it's particularly in this league. It starts up front. I mean, you know, you can say, well, why you say that? Well, here's why I say it. When you line up and you got 300 pounds on this ear and 300 pounds on this ear, and they're both coming at you, you know, there's susceptibility to get knocked back, get out of your gap. And he is relentless in his effort. He has a high skill set. He very, very, very rarely, in fact, I have a hard time picking out a specific play that the result was like his problem and that he was out of his gap or out of his responsibility. He is probably as accountable guy as we've got in just doing his job.
Kevin, the coaches always talk about games are won at the line of scrimmage. On defense and what you see of the guys on offense, are the parts there for this team to be what you need to be on the line of scrimmage? Well,
first of all, I'll tell you this, and I don't mean I understand you asking that, but I don't go on that other side. So the parts over there, there's somebody that's above my pay grade, okay? But as far as defensively, I think that the talent in the room of the defensive linemen, the success that they had last year and what that felt like and tasted like to them, the work ethic in which they have, and then the new guys we've added to that, I think we, you know, obviously we better be able to stop the run in this league, you know, and you've got to be pretty far up there. You can't, I mean, you've got to be able to stop the run.
Kevin, what's your plan with Nick Coe? Where you want to play him? How do you want to use him? Where does he fit in?
Well, I won't go too much into that now. I mean, you know, you may think that us coaches don't read what you say, and we don't read what you say about us, but we read what you say about other people.
Okay.
And so, you know, they got guys that sit in offices and cut articles out of, oh, they're going to use Nick Coe here and there. We have a plan for Nick to generate pass rush. That could come from multiple different places.
Have you seen enough from him?
Let me finish this one.
Have you seen enough from him to kind of to trust what you can get out of him? Do you know what you can get out of him at this point?
Ability-wise, yes. He's mastered the defense. You got to forget, although he didn't play last year, I think you remember me saying he was one of the guys that he got second-team reps all year long. That was just the way we had to do it for rotation of practice reps. So he practiced with the second group all year long. So he's kind of been in this thing even though he didn't play. He has a high skill set. If you've seen him walking around, I think he came in at 240-ish, and he's up to about 273 now. It hadn't affected his quickness. It hadn't affected his change of direction. It hadn't affected his speed, and he's a lot stronger. You know, and he understands leverage. You know, state heavyweight champion wrestler 2 or 3 times. Those are direct correlation with pass rush. So, you know, we're expecting him to help us there.
What are your expectations for him this season?
To play and play well.
And how's he doing?
Good. I mean, we only been out there 2 days in his shorts, you know, so.
Just coming back.
Yeah, he looks fine. He looks fine. You know, I'm pretty excited about the fact that we've got those 4 guys healthy for the first time. He probably could. He probably could, but we're not going there right now.
Yeah, we didn't get into it too much in the later part of the season or even in the spring, but there was a massive statistical improvement from the year before, and you've referenced a lot of them, and you've achieved a lot of things you were trying to reach. When you're a veteran coach, and you were up for the Royals, and you didn't end up being a finalist, but a lot of your contemporaries, John Chase among them, have been up for that award.
Did you feel like you personally got enough credit for last year? And if not you personally, then you feel like your players got enough credit for what you achieved last year?
Never really thought about it. This is the 38th season. I'm several seasons past that. I'm not going to stand here and tell you, people say, well, it's never, I'm sure you probably every coach goes through a phase in their coaching career where they're trying to maybe climb the ladder or make this happen or make that happen. I don't think about that. I'm coaching for the enjoyment of teaching those young guys and making them as good as they can. So I really don't think about that. It's irrelevant to me. And I think that at the end of the day, I think the people who really love Auburn football saw signs of things that they appreciated defensively. Some of them stronger signs than others. Some of it is not as strong. But I think our players fed off of that. And I think that is important. And so, yeah, I do. I think they did.
We talked to guys about the second year of a defense. For a lot of these guys, it's the first time they've had a defense again. Have you noticed just in 2 days the guys lining up, doing those things, is just having that, how much that helps?
Yeah, and I'm one of those people too now and you've heard me say this, is why I'm saying this. Let's don't stand up here and paint a picture that's not real. Let's tell it like it is. And here's what it is. When we came in, a year and a half ago, one of the things that I knew from the get-go, they'd had a lot of change. But the other thing I knew is that Will and I are from the same family tree. A lot of the things are very, very similar. And some of the things maybe had changed a little bit, or the word had changed. So we kept as much of it as we could, okay? Make no mistake about it, I think Will did an outstanding job of setting the table. I thought he did an outstanding job of recruiting. He is an outstanding defensive football coach. Very, very smart, very good football coach. So even though that's part of what happened, and then we got in, and where the tweaks or whatever we did, it just kind of, the process, we kept the process going. The process was not that different. It really wasn't. And so in some ways, yeah, they had a different coach, but they really had the same, it was some of the same family. And we've tried to make that to their benefit. Now move forward. Now it's really 2 years of exactly the same. They know how we're going to react, how we're going to respond, what to expect, what our expectations are. And I think you can see some, I hate to use the word comfort in that. Maybe that they feel good about that. I don't want them to feel comfortable with it. Yeah, confidence is a good word.
When you've got a unique challenge in the opener with the Georgia Southern team and a triple option, that's just not something players here have played at this level. And I know you faced it with Georgia Tech years ago.
Yeah.
At what point in camp do you want to begin, when you have the luxury of time to prepare and it's not just a week-to-week thing?
Yeah.
When do you start to look to prepare for that? And how different is the shotgun option versus the under center option, because they're going back and forth, I guess?
Well, you got the shotgun orbit zone read stuff, which is not the same as what the Willie Fritz, Tulane, post Georgia Southern, that option, or the New Mexico, if you will. It's a little bit more of the Paul Johnson Navy option from the shotgun, and then you've got the Paul Johnson version of it. It's a challenge. In terms of for the players, I think from a staff, we've got enough guys on our staff that have played against that style that we can't do too much, because we practice against a spread team all the time. We're playing, multiple spread teams early, and now we've got to put the brakes on and prepare for Georgia Southern. We're not exactly positive what they're doing, so we got to practice against Georgia Tech. Then we got to practice against the California school where he was the head coach. So you're sitting in there watching tape that was 2000 and whatever it is. It wasn't last year and it wasn't the year before. It's a couple years back. And so all of that, and then preparing the game plan without doing too much so we can fix the problems when the game happens. That's a challenge in itself. Now, the real challenge is the discipline of which you have to play that style offense and then prepare for it in fall camp in little increments, starting pretty soon here, where we'll have periods throughout the camp so that when we get to the game week, it's pretty familiar with them. But to get a true picture of them out there cutting like they cut in the offensive line, and we're not going to be able to simulate that. So it's a challenge. It is. There's no doubt it's a challenge. But you know, it is what it is. We've got to get it done. I mean, I remember back at Nebraska, before some of you guys were born, you know, we played Oklahoma, and Oklahoma was in the wishbone. Well, it was the last game of the year. You had to win that game to win the Big 8. So every Monday, it didn't matter who we played. You could be playing an undefeated team, whoever, that week. You know, you could be playing Washington Huskies. They'd be undefeated. It didn't matter. Every Monday, wishbone period. So fortunately, it's the first game, and we ain't got to do it 5 weeks of the season. So.
Anything else? All right, Coach.
All right, thanks, guys.
You going back